Hey guys, it's Shan or Shandamon here. Today I'm going to be covering the Tower of Doom. So the character I'll be doing this on is a 1050 blade with Grudge 3, Heavy Armor 2, and Ignore the Weak 1. So items that I'd recommend bringing, these aren't required to beat the tower, but will make your life a hell of a lot easier. I recommend bringing Dark Bombs to increase the damage dealt to the target, Impairment Bombs like Whirlwind Bombs and Earth Grenades, Panaceas to remove debuffs, Potions, obviously, Security Modules for shields, a Robe of Disguise for invisibility, and potentially a Scarecrow if you need it to draw attention away from yourself. But before we begin, like last time, I'm only going to be covering the floors that require some knowledge. Every other floor that I don't cover is pretty straightforward. I'm sure you can handle it. But let's get into it. So, floor 4. It's basically a normal survive. The only difference is the ground is hidden. You can stay close to the edges of the map because that's where the fog is the weakest. You can kind of see the outlines of the AoEs, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Floor 9, it's another survive. The only difference between this and the last one is that there are enemies at the edges of the map. You can just do what I do in the footage and just walk in a circle. Avoid some of the beams, you might not be able to dodge those. Bombers will eventually spawn in, so just be mindful of that. It will get a little bit more chaotic towards the end, but other than that, pretty simple. Floor 14, it's another survive. The only difference is you have these shadow-like figures in the middle. They're basically acting as walls. But other than that, the ground is covered in fog, meaning it's harder to see the explosion AoEs. There will be bombers coming after you. Eventually, 2 enemies will spawn in, and they'll try to, I guess, disrupt you. Just don't get hit. Floor 19, you gotta kill the boss in the middle. The gimmick here is that the boss only has 1 AoE around him that he uses every few seconds. There's also enemies at the edges of the map using AoEs. In the middle between the boss and the enemies on the left and right is pretty much a safe spot. Make sure you position well, and it's pretty straightforward once you have the position. Floor 20, it's pretty straightforward. You gotta kill the 2 rock golems. They don't do a lot of damage. The real threat is their knockback. They can knock you pretty far. And the other threat is the mechs around the map that shoot a machine gun every few seconds. The boss's knockback will just try to hit you towards there, and the machine guns may potentially melt you. Floor 21, this is another survive. The only difference is there is a centaur chasing you at all times, meaning you cannot stand still. Basically, there are bombs at the edges of the map, and there will be 1 bomb in the center. Luckily, the bomber in the middle explodes at a different time than the ones on the edges, so with quick movement, you can avoid getting hit. Slowly over time, more bombers will come and chase you, and another centaur will accompany the first centaur. Followed by that, firebugs will spawn in and potentially try to slow you down. And after that, I would say like 30 centaurs just chase you while the bombs at the edges are still exploding. Just stay in the center and then the floor's over. Floor 24. This floor has 2 phases. The first phase is survive, while the mech in the middle shoots a laser at you, and there's mechs at the side also shooting lasers. Followed by that, there are also bombers spawning near the boss. The best spot to be is probably in front of the boss and to the left of the boss, just hovering over that area. Now be careful about the boss's laser. It will quite literally melt you, even if you're exposed to it for like a second or 2. After you get to the survive phase, you have to kill the boss in the middle. The boss is quite tanky, but the mechs on the edges of the map shoot missiles at your location. These missiles can hit the boss, potentially making it easier to kill the boss. If you're having trouble, you can bring the Robo Disguise to make yourself invisible, and the mechs will shoot in the middle. You can also bring Dark Bombs just before you go invisible to make the boss take 20% more damage. Other than that, just avoid the boss's oils, his flamethrower. His flamethrower will melt you, so be careful of that. But other than that, just kill the boss and the floor will be done. Floor 34 is a regular survive. It starts off with the normal circle AoEs, but over time the bombs will get a new explosion pattern. These bombs explode in a cone, which do more damage than the original circle, but the hitbox is much smaller, making it easier to dodge but does more damage. These cones can explode either in front of the bomber or behind the bomber, so keep that in mind if you try to go behind them. And over time, the floor will become a lot more hectic. So just keep calm and keep dodging. Floor 36, you have to kill all the enemies. Start with killing the alarms in the middle. They'll just keep spawning archers. A lot of archers will spawn around the edges. Just they will melt you, so keep that in mind. You can bring shields to help prevent that. Potions will also help. Bombs can also help too, depending on which one. But just keep in mind that they can melt you quite easily. Floor 39, it's another survive, but this time the bombs have learned another new pattern. This new pattern is essentially a sniper shot in a way. They're pretty slow to blow up. The indicator is there for a while. It is pretty easy to dodge, but since it is more narrow, it will do a lot more damage. So not only that the new pattern will show up, all of the old patterns, including the circle AoEs as well as the cone AoEs, will also show up. Slowly over time, there's going to be bombers at the edges of the map, and you're going to notice that there's going to be quite a bit of indicators. You just got to keep moving and you can dodge them all. So floor 41, you have to kill the boss in the middle. He has 3 phases, but luckily each phase only has 1 attack. On top of that, there's also going to be enemies at the edges of the map with AoEs. Each phase has a different attack. The first phase, he shoots 3 lasers that move kind of like a windmill around him. These lasers will do quite a bit of damage, so find the openings and attack when possible. It will shut off for a few seconds before he'll do it again. Once you kill him in the first phase, he'll go into the second phase, and the one attack he has is just an AoE around him. So you have to step into the AoE range of the other monsters at the edge to dodge this one. If you get the timing right, you should be able to dodge it, no problem. And the third phase, which is the final one, the boss's attack is small multiple AoEs that inflict fear on you. One thing to keep in mind is that if you keep getting hit by this attack, you can get chain CC'd. So yeah, be mindful of that. Once you kill the boss, it should be over. Floor 42, it's another survive. The first wave of enemies will start off with a dash indicated by a blue line. This will inflict fear on you, so keep in mind that you can get chain CC'd. Followed by that, it will just be massive AoEs around the arena, so just walk to dodge those, use the dash when needed. And after that, bombers will start spawning, and a bunch of the other enemies will also spawn. But after that, it should be good. Floor 43, this floor is pretty simple, just kill the 2 bosses. I thought I'd cover it because when the bosses get low, you will get perma-darkness and it will just be annoying. It's not a hard floor, it is just tedious. Floor 44, you gotta kill the boss in the middle. I'm pretty sure that's Volton, but anyways, he shoots projectiles in a wide line at you. So keep in mind, you gotta quickly dodge. It will come up pretty fast. You can dodge that just by walking or close to him, just hugging him. On top of that, there will be enemies at the edges that hit you with arcs shown by the indicator. They attack 3 times before disappearing. Vulcan in the middle also has downtime after each AoE projectile. You can attack up to 3 times, so after that be sure to inflict as much damage as you can and then go back into dodging mode. Once you kill him, you're done. Floor 45, you have to kill 2 of the same boss. They have 3 different attacks: a beam knockup, an orb that explodes that knocks you up, and the final attack, which is what makes the floor not really fun for me. Basically, the bosses shoot orbs all over the map that inflict fear on you, and one of these orbs also goes on your current location. Now, when both bosses use this at the same time, it can get quite hectic because there are very little safe spots. These orbs inflict 4 seconds of fear on you, meaning you have to not get hit for a while, and the boss will repeat this attack quite a bit. Honestly, if you get hit by one orb, chances are you might die. Over time, there will also be enemies that spawn. They're pretty easy to kill, but they can do some decent damage to you and they stagger you. So make sure to kill them so that way they don't screw up your dodging. Once you kill these 2, you're done. Floor 46, you have to kill 3 bosses. Each of them has a different kind of AoE. It can be pretty big if all 3 of them cast it at the same time, but take your time to find openings and dodge. When you kill one, the fight does become much easier, but other than that, once you kill the bosses, move on to the next floor. Floor 47, you have to kill all the bosses. There's 3 bosses in total, but they each spawn in one by one. The gimmick of this floor is that all 3 can inflict ice on you. The first 2 bosses are pretty straightforward. The third boss, however, can inflict ice stacks quite easily on you. This boss spawns in multiple spiders. Be careful about getting frozen. You do get frozen for 10 seconds, which is quite a bit of time if you get 5 stacks. On top of that, if you're frozen for 10 seconds, the minions will melt you. What makes this boss hard is that on the left and right sides, there will be the same boss shooting icicles. These can also freeze you. This is where panaceas come in handy. If you feel you might get frozen and you don't want to wait out the frozen debuff, use a panacea to get rid of those. Once you kill the boss, you can move on. Floor 48, you gotta kill the boss, but just before you start fighting the boss, kill the phantoms in the middle. They are annoying. But once you start fighting, the boss's attacks are pretty easy to dodge. The real threat is the phantoms that spawn with the AoEs. These AoEs will one-shot you. Luckily, they only appear every few seconds, meaning when they do appear, you can focus on dodging, and they do have some downtime, which you can then use to DPS the boss. The boss also has an impairment check, so keep that in mind. If you fail, he does a really big AoE around him that does a lot of damage. If you don't have enough impairment, I recommend using Whirlwind or Earth Grenades to quickly get rid of that impairment check. Also, the boss has this one move that shoots an orb from the sky. It comes falling down. If that orb lands on you, it might kill you. As seen in the footage, it did kill me. Once you kill this boss, you're done this floor. Floor 49, it's pretty much the same as the last boss on the last tower. The only difference is that there are golems at the side of the map. These golems don't do a lot of damage with their attacks, but if they hit you, they have a lot of knockback. Be careful about getting hit by them. You can get pinballed back and forth, and you will just get hit by all the boss's AoEs. The boss has 2 important animations that you need to remember. It's the inner circle and the outer circle AoEs. The floor will become hidden, meaning you need to pay attention to the boss's animations to know if it is an inner or an outer. If the boss puts his hands in front of his face, it is an outer AoE. If the boss puts his hands to the side, then it is an inner AoE. Something that you can do optionally is you can use security modules to just tank a few of the AoEs if you need to. And finally, when he's about to die, he will inflict darkness on you and spam his laser move. So, floor 50, the final floor. You might notice that I'm on a different character. The truth is, I tried the boss quite a bit of times on the blade, but eventually just wanted to get it over with. This character is 1355 from the time I'm recording this, but honestly, it was still pretty challenging. Anyways, the boss is the knight, the one that helped you in the last tower. This boss will start with AoEs, which will force you next to the boss or outer section of the arena. Pay attention to the boss's sword color, as the floor will become hidden later and they will use this move. Basically, just remember that if the boss's sword is a beige, goldish kind of color, it is an outer, and if the boss's sword is glowing white, it is an inner. The boss also has a sword dash, which they can chain up to 4 times. For the first dash, keep some distance from the boss. After that, the other dashes are pretty easy to dodge. The boss will eventually transform into an evil figure which fears you. In this form, the boss has new attacks, like the lasers, telegraphed from the boss laughing menacingly. These lasers can be dodged by simply walking around the boss. At a certain point, the boss will cover the edges of the map with a red aura, which is basically fire, so stay away from that. The boss also has a great sword slam that hits across the entire arena and may potentially leave a lingering effect. The boss also shoots lasers, which can shoot in a fork or simply a straight line. The most threatening laser is the one that moves in a field of vision in front of the boss. This laser will melt you. Again, walk around the boss, stay behind them. It is a pretty safe spot, honestly. And finally, once you kill this boss, congratulations, you're done the Tower of Doom. But anyways, that wraps up this guide video. I hope this has helped you in some way. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, it does help a lot. And also, you can check out my Twitch channel. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. But other than that, have a good day, evening, or whatever time you're watching this at. And I'll catch you later.